Mother-in-law, please eat quickly before it gets cold. With those words, my daughter-in-law offered me stew. Despite being a full-time housewife, she never did any household chores and spent her time going out. I always ended up doing the chores after work. Yet her suddenly making stew and bringing it over felt suspicious. As I was suspicious, I noticed a strange smell mixed with the strong aroma of the stew. What is this ammonia-like smell? The moment my son and his wife went to the kitchen, I switched my plate with my son's to check the smell. His stew didn't seem to have the strange smell. Confused by the strong scent of stew, my son and his wife came back from the kitchen. As I was feeling suspicious, my daughter-in-law, smiling brightly, urged me to eat quickly. Just as I decided to eat, my son, who had taken a bite before me, suddenly collapsed, foaming at the mouth. This all started when we began living together with my son and his wife. I have one son. My son Ryan got a job at the government office and married soon after. His partner was a 21-year-old woman named Alyssa. Apparently, she had been living by working in bars after graduating high school. Honestly, her youth and the fact that she worked in a bar worried me. However, my impression changed a bit when I met her for the first time. My daughter-in-law, brought by my son, came to our house with a gift in hand. Nice to meet you, I'm Alyssa. She greeted us brightly and courteously, greeting politely, which took me by surprise.
Alyssa lost her parents and worked in a bar to earn money. Seeing her honest and hard-working demeanor made me want to support her.
His words made me reflect a bit. I was embarrassed by my own prejudice, thinking negatively just because she was young and worked in a bar. My impression of her, being polite and well-mannered, improved over time. Thinking my serious son was supporting her, I didn't particularly oppose their marriage. And so my son and his wife got married and started their new life in an apartment nearby. A week later, they wanted to live with us. Surprised, I called my son. Why suddenly live together? Alyssa must dislike the idea, right?
No, Alyssa suggested it. It saves money and it'd be hard for you to live alone.
Alyssa suggested it? I couldn't believe it. I had assumed she would dislike the idea of living with the mother-in-law. I felt happy and somewhat guilty for not expecting her to care about me. I was ashamed for doubting her just because she was young. Honestly, I wasn't struggling with my current life, but I gratefully accepted my son and daughter-in-law's feelings and agreed to live together. After that, my life started to change for the worse. I felt something was off with my daughter-in-law after we started living together. The full-time housewife was always out. Alyssa, it seems you haven't done the laundry or taken out the trash. Were you out again today? Huh? Well, yeah, she replied, distracted by her smartphone. When I came back from work, the laundry basket was piled high with unwashed clothes. I don't want to say this, but as a full-time housewife, could you please do some housework? Huh? Are you bullying me? Scary, forcing me to do chores. That's not what I mean. You have more free time during the day, right? I'm not free, you know. If it bothers you, why don't you do it yourself? She retorted, lying on the sofa. I couldn't hide my shock at her response. I tend to be quite meticulous, unable to tolerate accumulated laundry or dust in the corners of the room. However, my carefree and lazy daughter-in-law Alyssa seems to not care at all and does nothing. I bet if left alone, she wouldn't do laundry for about a week. How sloppy, I thought, but couldn't say it out loud. Saying more would just come off as mean. Thinking I should just take care of it myself if it bothered me, I started the washing machine. Coming back, I found Alyssa eating snacks she probably bought from the supermarket. Did you prepare dinner? Huh? I'm not really hungry. But aren't you going to prepare anything? What have you been doing for Ryan's meals until now? We just buy ready-made meals from the supermarket. I can't cook. I was shocked. Indeed, with the availability of frozen foods and delivery services, it's possible to live without cooking. But I was surprised that there are people who don't do it at all. Is this how young people are these days? I wondered, shocked by the generation gap, but trying to accept it. However, a month after starting to live together, my sense of unease grew. Alyssa was increasingly not home when I returned from work. Could a full-time housewife be out until the evening? Alyssa, where are you going almost every day? Huh? Why do I have to tell you? Because you're not working and I'm curious what you're doing during the day. Alyssa frowned in annoyance at my words. Really, so annoying. What I do is my business. Alyssa snapped and stormed out of the house. She's probably going to smoke at the supermarket. Sometimes she leaves the house and comes back smelling of cigarettes. Honestly, I was troubled by Alyssa's behavior. I had even casually mentioned it to my son, but his response was lackluster.
Alyssa has had a hard time, and maybe she's just reacting to that. I wanted to indulge her whims a bit,
my son said, looking troubled. Then one day I came home to the smell of stew. Surprised, I headed to the kitchen to find Alyssa there.
Ah, welcome back, mother-in-law. I made dinner today. It'll take a little while for the rice to be ready, so please wait.
I couldn't believe it. Just yesterday she was furious, saying she didn't want to do chores and wanted to do as she pleased. What changed? As I was pondering, Ryan came home.
Ah, welcome back, Ryan. It's stew today.
Really? Alyssa, you made it?
Ryan was surprised, and his eyes widened.
Yes, the rice is ready, so I'll start serving now,
Alyssa said as she began to dish out the stew. She seemed unaccustomed to it, taking a while to serve even though it was just dishing out.
I don't know if it's tasty.
She placed the stew and salad on the dining table. It looked like normal stew.
Alyssa, you can cook after all.
Hey, I can make something like this,
Alyssa exclaimed, laughing offensively. I noticed a strange smell for a moment, like ammonia. What is it? Unaware of my thoughts, my son and his wife happily chatted.
I'll bring the beer.
Sounds good. Oh, I also prepared pickles. Shall we go get them together?
Following their conversation, the two headed to the kitchen. I was suspicious, so I sniffed the stew. Indeed, a strange smell mingled with a strong scent of stew. I wondered if Ryan's stew had the same issue, so I swapped the plates and sniffed the stew at Ryan's seat. It didn't seem to have that strange smell, but it was suspicious nonetheless. As I was sniffing, my son and his wife returned, joined their hands in gratitude before eating. Alyssa looked at me intently and then smiled brightly.
Mother-in-law, please eat quickly before it gets cold.
Right. Somehow her smile made me too apprehensive to eat. That's when it happened. Ryan made a strange noise, and when I looked, he was foaming at the mouth, his eyes rolled back. Ryan, what's wrong? Alyssa, call an ambulance.
What? Why?
Alyssa seemed too flustered to hear me. I had no choice but to call an ambulance myself.
Why would this happen to Ryan?
Alyssa muttered to herself until the ambulance arrived. We both rode in the ambulance to the hospital. Upon arrival, immediate treatment began. The flurry of nurses made me realize the severity of the situation. I had informed the emergency personnel that Ryan had collapsed immediately after beginning his meal. Everything that could be done had been done. All that was left was to hope for the cause to be identified and for my son's life to be saved. 3 hours later, we were called into the doctor's office.
Your son has barely survived, but he's still in critical condition. Depending on how tonight goes, he'll need to be hospitalized for at least a week.
I understand.
We need you to prepare for his hospitalization, so please move to the consultation room.
Following the doctor's instructions, we moved to the consultation room. For some reason, no nurse came. After a while, 2 men in suits, police officers, appeared before me and Alyssa.
We're from the police. May we have a word?
The police? What for?
We were notified by the hospital about your son's case.
From the hospital? Why would they?
Your son collapsed due to poisoning by a substance not normally ingested, suggesting it was intentional. The hospital reported a potential criminal aspect.
My mind went blank. The police slowly asked me to recount the events leading to the collapse. We had dinner. After eating the stew Alyssa made, Ryan collapsed. There was a strange smell making me hesitant to eat. Then Ryan, I recounted.
So you hadn't eaten yet?
No. The police nodded quietly, looking at Alyssa, who was pale and trembling. Could it be you, Alyssa?
It's not.
Alyssa stammered. Her trembling seemed like a confession. Anger surged within me, exploding out. How could you do this? Because of you, my son.
There's no proof it was me.
Let's investigate then. Officer, we brought the food Ryan ate straight to the hospital. If you examine it, I think you'll find the cause.
Wait, why involve the police?
It's a criminal matter, so it's best to have the police investigate and find the perpetrator.
The perpetrator?
Of course, they'll be arrested if they're found. At the word arrest, Alyssa gasped and then glared at me with determination.
I did it, but I didn't mean for Ryan to eat it.
At Alyssa's words, the police officer furrowed his brows. Yes, you intended it for me. My plate of stew had a strange smell, and I had swapped it with Ryan's. Probably the strange substance was mixed only in my plate. Why would you do such a thing?
Because you're annoying, always nagging about doing household chores or questioning where I've been. I just wanted to scare you a bit.
Alyssa's trivial reason left me dumbfounded. Even a child wouldn't resort to such malicious pranks. If you disliked it so much, you could have just moved out. It was your idea to live together, wasn't it? I couldn't understand why she wanted to live with someone she disliked. At my words, Alyssa twisted her face.
It's all about the money. Ryan only gives me $500 a month. He says it's enough for 2 people living in an apartment.
But that amount is after rent and utilities, right? There shouldn't be any problem with it covering food and daily necessities. Ryan was indeed frugal. Yet if he was providing $500 a month, including food expenses, that should have been enough to live on. Apparently it wasn't sufficient for Alyssa, who spent her days out. It's because you're always out having fun that it's not enough. Why don't you work?
Me? Work? Impossible. I married a civil servant for his money. Why should I have to work?
Alyssa fumed, tapping her foot in irritation. Expecting money without working is too naive. Did you marry my son for his money?
Of course. What other reason could there be to marry such a stiff?
Alyssa nonchalantly fiddled with her nails, unforgivable in my eyes. Once she started speaking her mind, it seemed she felt no need to pretend anymore and began to openly talk about herself.
The whole story about being parentless was a lie. I just ran away from home and was out of money, so I worked in a nightclub. Pretending to be a poor parentless girl got me sympathy and money. Such fools.
You deceived my son?
If he's deceived, it's his fault, right? Anyway, he just wanted a young and pretty woman. He used to buy me anything when we were dating, but after we got married, nothing. It was unexpected.
Ryan had been genuinely concerned for her, yet here she was unapologetically laughing about deceiving someone. Why do you need so much money?
For the nightclubs. Nightclubs?
Nightclubs? You've been going to nightclubs?
Just so you know, I go during the day. Going at night would be too suspicious.
I'm not familiar, but it seems some nightclubs are open during the day. Her daily outings were to visit nightclubs.
Even so, I thought living together would save on living expenses, but having to deal with a nagging old lady was the worst.
So that's why you were reluctant to prepare meals?
Exactly. Food expenses are a waste, right? I was actually getting money from Ryan, but since you have money, it was easier to let you buy and cook everything. So convenient.
Alyssa hadn't contributed to the household expenses at all. I had been doing the shopping and cooking instead of her, so I was the one paying for the food expenses. With the food money Ryan was supposed to give me, Alyssa spent it on herself.
It was lucky to get a bit more for the 3 of us, but it's never enough. He's so stingy.
Alyssa sighed in frustration.
This month is my favorite guy's birthday, and I need to give him a lot of money, and all I get is a few hundreds each month. Ridiculous. I should be getting at least $10,000 more. Ryan has insurance, right?
Are you planning to dip into his insurance money?
I'm just borrowing it. It's fine if I return it, right?
I was furious. My son was deceived by such a woman, and she nearly cost him his life. There's nothing more to discuss. Officers, please take her away. As the police officers moved to grab her, Alyssa panicked and began to resist.
Wait! Why are you taking me? I confessed. Shouldn't that be enough? Forgive me.
What are you talking about? You don't even apologize, and you expect forgiveness?
I'm sorry. I didn't think it would come to this, but I didn't mean any harm, so it's okay, right? Let me go.
Alyssa argued, struggling. I looked at her coldly. I will never forgive you for deceiving my son, for putting him through this. You will pay for your crimes.
No way. I thought if I confessed, I would be forgiven.
Unfortunately, if apologies were enough, we would need the police. However, there might be a chance for settlement if Ryan doesn't press charges.
Then let's settle. I won't do it again. Please forgive me.
I couldn't believe a word from someone who had lied so much. No, even if Ryan decides against divorce, I will never forgive you. And you probably can't even afford the settlement money, can you?
Settlement money?
Alyssa seemed truly naive, completely failing to understand the situation. It's impossible for matters involving life-threatening actions to be easily settled. Even with money, I can't forgive your actions. Pay for your crimes and start over.
No, if I'm caught, it's the end of my life. Help me. I apologized. Why won't you forgive me?
Alyssa cried like a child. Her wailing wouldn't change her fate. The police finally spoke up.
We need to hear more at the station.
No, I won't go to the police station. I want to go home.
Alyssa threw a tantrum. I sighed. Planning to run away? I won't allow it. Go to the station. Ryan and I will decide what to do next.
Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I've reflected. Please.
I can't accept your plea, and I'll explain everything to Ryan, I affirmed.
Wait, that would be trouble. If Ryan leaves me, I can't survive. Keep quiet, please.
As if Ryan would forgive her after learning everything. She had no remorse for her grave actions. Her ethical compass was astoundingly low for an adult. I don't want to see your face again. Please, leave.
Why? We're family. Why won't you forgive me?
Wake up. Being family doesn't excuse everything, and I can't consider you family after what you've done. Even if Ryan doesn't pursue divorce, Alyssa must leave. I resolved to have nothing to do with her. Realizing she wouldn't receive help from me, Alyssa's face fell in despair. It was too late for regrets. She was led away by the police. I later explained everything to Ryan. He was shocked, but seemed to have suspected Alyssa's lies. Ryan and Alyssa divorced, and she is serving time for attempted murder. Despite her apology letters, I never read them. Her parents, alive and well, apologized after learning of their marriage from the news. They had lost contact with Alyssa since she ran away in high school. Alyssa hails from a rural area 3 hours away by train. Her parents, respectable people, couldn't fathom how things turned out this way. We decided to leave her future to her parents after her release, relieved by their understanding. Alyssa will likely struggle to find a decent job post-release, but that's no concern of mine. She needs to learn the value of hard work. Fortunately, Ryan recovered without lasting effects and is now living happily. I'm relieved and plan to continue supporting him for a happy life.